going on, everybody? It's been a little while since I made a video. I've been trying to put a bunch of pieces together concerning the balloons that were released, I believe, on August 21st, the day of the solar eclipse. Casey has been doing quite a bit of work uncovering what I think is a really, really big story. But yeah, I'll get to all that later. What I really want to show you is some of this climate engineering, geoengineering that's taking place. I found a German website. I wasn't unable to find anything in English pertaining to this, at least with any type of information in it. But I went and translated it for you guys. So give me a second and I'll read what they're talking about. All right. Is geoengineering necessary for climate protection and the implementation of the Paris Agreement? What risks and side effects would be associated with interventions in the climate, and who would decide their deployment? From October 9th to the 12th, international experts from research, politics, and civil society will discuss the complex ethical, political, and scientific issues that arise at the world's largest conference on the subject, the Climate Engineering Conference of 2017. The IASS invites journalists to participate in the press conference, Geoengineering Against Climate Change. And it goes on, to give you some names and stuff. The atmospheric scientist is responsible for research on climate engineering at IASS. And you might want to get that name, Mark Lawrence, because he is the managing director for this Institute Transformative Sustainability Research. IASS, definitely worth doing your fair share of research into it. And then you got David Keith, professor of applied physics and politics at Harvard University. In his research, he deals with the science, technology, and politics of solar geoengineering. He's the founder of Carbon Engineering, which develops technologies to get CO2 out of the air. Le Fior, International Environmental Policy Officer at the Heinrich Boyle Foundation. Geographer, works for climate justice, radical emissions reductions, and the restoration of ecosystems. Pablo Suarez heads the Research and Innovative Department at the Red Cross Red Crescent Climate Center. The Argentine system dynamics modeler emphasizes that the rights and needs of those people who are particularly affected by climate change should be given greater consideration in the discussion on climate engineering. Background: dimming the sun or sucking greenhouse gases. Despite the Paris Climate Agreement, the reduction of global greenhouse gas emissions is slow. Strategies for adapting to climate change are still in the beginning. Will geoengineering approaches increasingly play a role in climate change? And if so, how can their potential risk be determined and limited? I just want to say right there, I'm sure quite a few people remember John Kerry and I think it was another prime minister, but I could be wrong, saying that there was 500 days until climate chaos, global climate chaos. And it was more of a threat than a warning. I mean, to say there was 500 days was awfully a specific number. And geoengineering isn't nothing new. They did it back in Vietnam. They cloud seeded to get really heavy torrential rains because they were using guerrilla warfare. And we had the technology where even when it was flooding and had deplorable weather conditions, we would still be able to infiltrate, so to speak, the enemy. And then China, I believe in the 80s, maybe 84, created a massive snowstorm that they weren't expecting to do. They were trying to find a solution for a drought they were experiencing and started messing around with geoengineering technology and caused a massive snowstorm. And Katrina, I mean, there's a lot of other things where you see strange radar anomalies right before the storm hits. I'll read a little further. 2 different types of technologies are currently under discussion. The carbon dioxide removal (CDR) method aims to remove the greenhouse gas from the atmosphere by various methods. On the other hand, the change in the radiation balance, solar radiation management (SRM), should ensure that less sunlight reaches the Earth's surface. And that, I mean, we see the chemtrails. Anybody who's looking up can't miss them. And this has been going on for over a decade. So the fact that they're just now starting to talk about this in the mainstream media means that you can surely expect that they are going to cause some severe climate disruptions. And we're already seeing that. It started with Harvey. And then, obviously Irma is going to be devastating. And then we have Jose that's coming our way as well. Right now, the projections and the models show it going a little north. But if you see the way there's a high pressure system coming in from the north, that's, I believe, will push Hurricane Jose more towards the New York City area. But I guess we'll have to wait, as that's probably still another week or so off. But like I said, it's something to pay attention to. Will humanity in the future capture CO2 from the air by large-scale cultivation of energy crops and compress it under the earth? Nearly all of the ambitious scenarios of the World Climate Commission (IPCC), which aim to limit global warming to 2 degrees Celsius by the end of the century, are already based on the assumption that this so-called BECCS method, bioenergy with carbon capture and storage, is used on a large scale. However, for such bioenergy productions with CO2 capture, it would take huge areas of farmland, a real problem. Is it a real problem? It's going to be a real problem because they're going to make it a real problem. They are greatly interfering with the global climate, and this is uncharted territory. This is something that people have never gone through, never experienced in their entire life, and all these geniuses and all these weather, I can't even, they're not scientists as far as I'm concerned. Some of them, meteorologists definitely know what they're talking about, but they're also covering a lot of it up, especially the ones you see on mainstream media and all your television channels and shit like that. Yeah, so I just wanted to get this out here. There's a couple other things I want to show real quick, and I'll let you guys go, but let me get to it real quick. Okay, so this is the path of Hurricane Jose. As you can see, they got it projected to come right up, pretty much right under Bermuda, and I'll try to show you if I could find it, the cold front coming in from the north that is in itself a vortex, and I believe that will cause this hurricane to remain in the warm waters long enough to strengthen and eventually move possibly into the Carolinas or Virginia, New York, in that vicinity. 1 second, let me find it.
Bring the eastern Gulf of Mexico into play.
All right, bear with me for a second, guys.
And this is why there are many factors at play here. A couple of them I'll highlight for you that are going to determine when this storm does eventually make that turn. An upper level high in the northern Atlantic is steering this system to the west and to the south. Meanwhile, an upper level trough, the same that will drop.
Okay, so you see what they were just talking about. So that high pressure system that's coming down from the north, that's still going to be vortexing by the time Jose makes its way up below Bermuda. So what I can see happening, and I'm not, psychic and I can't predict the future, but if this was a man-made storm, I would direct it up the coast, up the west coast of Florida, and I'll put it in the Gulf and mix it with Cadia and have the perfect storm, so to speak. You'd have God knows what. I've never seen 2 hurricanes merge before, and that's a very real possibility. And if it hit the same area that was just hit, by Harvey, who knows what kind of catastrophe that would bring. And like I was saying, and then we have Hurricane Jose on its way, and perfect timing for the high pressure zone to be moving more out to the east and south to push that Hurricane Jose further inland, further west of Bermuda. And like I said, anywhere from the up maybe North Carolina to New York City. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. That's all I got for now, guys. I just wanted to, throw a little of that at you, especially with the Geoengineering Climate Conference that's taking place in October. But to my subs, love you guys. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm out. Peace.